It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. I can't mess up. And I don't foresee that there should be any issues. Right? G'day and welcome to part 4 of making Toph by Sunset Dragon. If you haven't seen parts 1, 2 and 3, check those out first before you start watching this video. But in this video, we'll be covering off how I made the Vambraces and the Toeless boots. And as a bit of a fun activity, count how many different terms I use to explain the Vambrace or the Toeless boots. Have fun! Good morning. So I am in my pajamas, you know what that means, it's crafting time. And today we are going to start working on the very last piece of this costume that is sewing based. And that is the ankle slash foot protector thingy and also the wrist and arm protector thingy. So both of these are going to be made very similarly. This is going to be the easier project, so I'm probably going to focus on this first. This one has a few extra moving parts to it, but yeah, they're basically constructed in a very similar way. So what I need to do firstly is I'm going to cut out all the pieces of fabric that are associated with the base layers for both of these. So that involves, I was going to use canvas as like an interlining, but then the more that I think about it, the more I know that that cotton canvas can be quite thick. And these are already very close fitting items. So I think what I'll need to do is I will need to actually do a interfacing, like some sort of interfacing in these to like the kind of interlining thing that I've already got that will be underneath the kind of straps that the image shows. This is the image, you can see what I mean there. And so what I'm going to do is, and then there's the lining, which I'm also going to be using the same fabric. So there's already going to be like 3 layers of fabric, but realistically one of those layers is going to be doubled up, and there's also going to be interfacing. So that is like 5 layers that is going to be in this. So yeah, I decided not to go with the canvas because that is the thickest that it would be. So I decided no to that, and I'm just going to use interfacing. So I am going to make a few little marks on these, and then I'm going to rip them apart. I might even just do the like wrist and armband first. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do that because it's the easier one. And frankly, that is all that my little brain can handle right now, is this one. I'm currently suffering from a migraine, and even standing is hard, but I need to push on with this, so that is what I'm going to do. So it's a little bit later, I've gone ahead and I've cut out all the pieces of fabric, or at least all of the base layer of the pieces of fabric. So I've got my lining over here. And then I also have the interlining pieces. So this is essentially the fabric that the kind of decorative pieces are going to be sewn onto. And I have backed that with the interfacing. So it's just a soft interfacing. It's just to give it a little bit more strength. And yeah, just because I didn't want to use the canvas. So the next thing I need to do is work out the decorative fabric that's going on top of this. So it looks like they are essentially strips of fabric that are in like set of 3 lengths. So like they're like 3 strips kind of sewn together that then wrap around and kind of cross over each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little bit of a play around and kind of figure out the width and dimension that I need to make them. I'm probably going to do it as like a piece of fabric that will have essentially like pin tucks. So it looks like it's 3 different pieces, and then sew that around the base. So I want to see how that looks, because if I can just make it as simple as possible, as long as I get the same look that I'm after, I will be a happy camper. So I'm going to pull out the fabric now, and this is the last kind of new fabric. I'm finally getting to use it. Let me just grab it. All right, so here it is. It looks like the same sort of greens is what I've been using everywhere else. This is slightly darker than the green in the jacket, and it's kind of in between the jacket and the corset kind of coloring. Closer to the jacket, but you can kind of see. It's a slightly different color. So many different greens, so many different fabrics and textures. This is like some sort of like satin kind of crepe or something like that. It's a very low sheen as well, which I'm very happy about. Once again, I got this in the LA Fabric District with the purpose of this one being for the wraps, so the cuffs and the ankles. So yes, I need to do a little bit of playing around with this. I might actually do a few testers on some of like calico or some scrap pieces of fabric just to see what it's like before I cut into this, because I do have a limited supply. Even though I don't think I need all of this, I'd rather be safe than sorry. You know how it is. So yes, now it's time to figure out the maths, and my head feels like it's on fire. I might have to go and sit down for a bit. I have done a tester piece. This is what it looks like, and I am very happy with that. So that's giving me kind of what I was looking for, which means that this project will hopefully go easily, touch wood. So I will just unpick it to make sure I get the measurements right. So it's a 1 centimeter seam allowance in the back, and then 1 centimeter seam allowance here, and each of these is meant to be about 1.5. Yes, that is all fine. It is looking good, and I think that this is what I'm going to go for the sleeves. I'm pretty sure that the like ankle ones are a little bit wider, but I'm only going to work on the wrist / arm ones at this point in time. Good morning. So last night I went ahead and I cut out and then measured and then sewed and sewed and sewed and then ironed. So what I ended up with were 2 of these long strips that look like they're 3 individual strips kind of sewn together. So it's just going to be easier for me to work with this. They don't look perfect, and they're not meant to look perfect. The reference image shows that some of them are like thicker than others, so I wasn't paying too much, you know, close attention to that, and I think it kind of adds to the look of it all. So now that I've got these strips, what I'm going to do is I am going to firstly cut and pin them onto the base of the arm braces, and then once I've done that, then what I'll do is I'll go around and I'll start hand sewing them into place. And then once that's done, then I will probably well, sew around the edges obviously as well, and then from there I can sew it up, put in the zip, all of that good stuff. But the first thing is cutting this and pinning it into position. So I'll check in with you once that is done. Good evening. So I have now got my 2 pieces all hand stitched together. Literally just made enough. Like one of those strips were enough to do one of these, and yeah, that was pushing it. I was glad that I was like, that should be enough, and I was like, that was just enough, well done. So I've gone ahead, hand stitched it all, and then I hit it with my heat press, my handheld HTV, this thing, and I love that thing. Seriously, it's so good. I was like, my iron's just not big enough, and then I was like, you know what has even heating and is a large surface? My heat press. So I busted it out, and it just pressed these really, really nicely. So they look a little bit interesting at the moment laying flat, but when you have them around a curved surface like this, they look so cool. I am super, super happy with these. So what I am going to do for the rest of tonight is I am going to flatline the backing fabric to it, and I'm going to serge all the edges. I wasn't going to, but then the more that I think about it, the more I think that it's just a good idea that I do serge it, just so that everything is encased, because there are a lot of like small edges being shown, and I just want it to look pretty and like not fray. So I'm gonna go ahead, do that, and then I think I'm gonna call it a night, and then tomorrow it will be a case of adding in the zipper and doing the gold bias, gold tape on the ends. I'm still not 100%, I've still got brain fog from the migraine that I've been suffering all week. So yeah, sorry about that. But this is about all that I can handle at the moment. But yes, I just need to go ahead, do all that, and then these will hopefully be done by tomorrow, which would be very exciting because then it's just the ankle slash foot protector things that I need to make. And definitely doing these first and breaking it down and figuring out how I'm actually constructing them all has really helped, so I'm very glad that I did it this way. So this is where we're up to. So I have sewn them all and I have hand stitched again all of the different connection points, because I found that when I put them in a curve they kind of spread because it wasn't close enough. So I've gone in and done a blind stitch between each of the sections, and I've also put in the zips. So I actually realized after I put the zips in that realistically I only needed the zips about half the way, but at least this way I have got a little bit more kind of flexibility in terms of getting them on. But yes, this is what they look like. I am so happy with them. I think they look incredible. They are incredibly kind of thick and look like they're armor pieces, which I just love. I've never done something like this before, so very happy with that. I love the design. I think that looks really nice, and I think it's picking up very nicely as well. So the last thing that I need to do for this is to put on the gold on the base and also up here, and do the connecting piece from here through here to the back here. So that's what's going to happen next. It is much later in the night, but I have got these two arm braces. I really like how they turned out, and that's what the back looks like. So there's got the zip, and the gold goes through my root finger and my index finger and comes around to the back here. And yeah, lots of hand sewing. I'm very tired of hand sewing, so now I'm gonna do the same thing but for my footsies. So that will happen over the next couple of days, but I may need to take a small break because I'm slowly losing my mind. All right, good night. Good morning. It is the day after I have just finished the arm braces, and it's time that I start on this. At least start. I am really not feeling fabulous today, and my fingers still hurt from doing all the hand sewing for the braces, for the arm braces. So at the very least I just want to cut out the pieces today. And I have been putting this off because this is just a really weird shape when you're like going to be covering it with like layers of other fabrics. So I have just tried it all on with the 3D printed like ankle bracelet thingy. There's a video all about that. I will link it up top or whatever. And I have decided that I want to extend up here by about 2 centimeters. And yes, so essentially what it is that the actual kind of foot thing that will have all of the crosses, like the different layers of fabric like I've done on the arm bracer, is literally from about here down to here. And then up here is a flat piece of fabric that then obviously has the gold bias up the top, gold bias around here, and has one of those gold half domes that are on the sleeves. So it's going to be constructed a little bit more difficult, more difficult than the arm guards, but that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. So yes, I need to kind of figure out where I'm going to stop with the kind of crosses. I'm thinking that I'm going to stop literally just above like the line where the join is going to be, and yeah, just because I think that I want to make it smooth, but also I am concerned like just how bulky it's going to get in that seam, and there's going to be something on top of it. So I'm just gonna have to play around and figure it out, but that's okay. It's fine. It is what it is. I have to stop procrastinating and just get on with it. You can see that like my English is just going out the window today. I'm finding it hard to speak, so I am gonna go ahead and unpick all of this, make some notes and get cutting. So I've gone ahead and I've cut out all the pieces, so I'm gonna go ahead and give them all a good press now, and yeah, start putting together the kind of bases, because they've got to be sewn together and the ankle needs to have their little darts put in. That's the word I'm looking for. And then we can start figuring out, okay, well, how are we going to wrap this? My brain doesn't know if I can actually handle this today, to be honest. It's elsewhere. My brain is not in this project today. It's much later in the day and I've had lots of breaks and I just have not been filming, but realistically, it's been very uninteresting. That's why I haven't filmed it. But I wanted to show you what I've done so far. So I had cut out all the pieces, but then I started constructing the two base kind of layers and then the two lining layers. So let me show you the base layers. So this is one of the base layers and the other side is literally exactly the same, just mirrored. And what it is that essentially if those two are connected, there's your foot. So it is my left foot. And there's where the zip will go into. So I have connected it all this way. It's very odd. The shapes of this was very, very odd. But why I've done it this way is essentially because I want the crisscross on the top to really be able to be seen and for it to be very, very smooth. Because if I connected it the other way under the back, then it would be that the top would look really weird when it's sewn together. So because what I want is most of the join to be underneath, which I'm not sure what that's going to feel like walking on that, but I'll probably go through and like remove the excess with some scissors after I like sew it all down, finalizing it all. Sorry, just speaking out loud here. Yeah, I figured if I do this way and I start from the front top and work my way out, then I will be able to get a pattern that is looking really nice. So that's the base layer. So the next section that I need to do for this will be to create those tubes like I did for the arm braces, where I can put the pin tucks and then, you know, pin and sew them onto here. The other thing that I did was I went ahead and I created essentially the lining. So this is one of the lining. It's technically inside out, but you can see the pretty fabric. So you can see that I've sewn up the boot, for lack of a better word. You know, toeless boots. And this is, technically this will be my left boot as well. Well, yes. And yes, so that is what it looks like. I've put the fabric on the top, which is the round circle. It's looking real limp because it's got no interfacing on it. I'm leaving like the really, really heavy dense interfacing, and I'm going to connect it to the outer layer because it's a sew-in. So I will probably overlock those two pieces together, to be honest, but I haven't done that yet. I might do that next. But yeah, so these I can just put to one side until I get up to the stage where I'm connecting all the pieces together before I go ahead and put on the gold. But I've got a lot of work before I get to that, but they're all together. So in short, I think I'm gonna leave it there for tonight because I've really pushed through today as much as I can. I think I'm just a little bit burnt. Burnt out. I'm so sick of seeing green. I love the color green and I'm just like, I am so sick of green. So yes, I am gonna put this to one side. I know that I still have to overlock the outer layer together. I might do that tonight. It's gonna take me 5 minutes, but it just means I have to pull out the overlocker. Yeah, Kiralee, I'll do that. I'll do that and then I'll call it quits for tonight. See, I just keep pushing myself until I get it done. G'day, so it's a couple of days later now and I'm feeling a little bit more positive. I worked on something that wasn't green and now I'm back to it. So I have decided that I am going to continue on with covering the kind of foot things, at least the base of them, with the kind of wrap kind of texture thing. But this morning I had a realization. And I feel like such an idiot. This is why it's important that sometimes you step away from a project. Because what I realized was that one of the issues, it's not a huge issue, but like one of the things that I was having a little bit of an issue with was that there was a seam at the base of like because I had the two kind of pin tucks on top and then I had like a seam underneath. And that's all fine. But then I had a realization. What if I only did one pin tuck and the other join was the seam? And that way when I ironed it, I wouldn't be like trying to fiddle around with trying to get the seam at the back flat. Why didn't I think of that like, you know, 2 weeks ago? Anyway, so what I need to do now is I need to cut out these strips of fabric, do some quick maths to figure out what I need them to be now, because I'm going to be removing 2 centimeters from the kind of extra seam slash, you know, the pin tuck. So I need to kind of figure that out and then figure out the placement of where that pin tuck is going to be. But that should be easy. I should be able to work that out. But yes, I'll cut out the fabric and then get cracking. So the new line is about 5 inches. So that is what I am drawing out before I go ahead and cut it. Can't believe I didn't think of this. So it's a bit later in the day and I have done my tube. So this is the one seam and also the pin tuck. It's worked fine, which makes me very happy, because one thing that I was concerned about with the like foot brace thing is that this goes underneath, so from the heel towards the front of the foot. And so when I was going to walk on it, I was concerned about having essentially 3 seams that I'm going to be feeling as I'm walking. And already I can feel that removing that middle back seam that I had in the previous like arm braces, it's already so much smoother. Like it's still, you know, it's still going to be a little bit of an uneven like as I'm walking and stuff, but it already, I can tell it's going to be a lot more comfortable for my feet. So I guess the next step is to start laying it out and start pinning and then start sewing. And hopefully, just like the arm braces, I will only need one of these per like appendage. So yes, otherwise I will need to make up another one, but that's okay. I have enough for one more strip. So I've just finished doing the parts that I had and there's not enough, so I'm gonna have to make another strip, and hopefully one more strip is gonna be enough because I don't think I can get 2 out. So fingers crossed I've got enough fabric to do this. It's much later now and I have finished pinning all of this. It looks like an absolute mess, but hopefully it all works. And there's so many like very like parts that I have to be very careful on, because just the way that this kind of curves, because it's like that sits on top and then I've got all these little pieces like sticking out, which I have to like sew in when I go through and hand sew it all. But yes, it's all pinned. To let you know how close we were cutting it, this was all that's left of the 3rd piece that I created to do, you know, all of the detailing. And this is all that is left of the fabric that I bought in LA. So cutting it very, very fine. Yeah, that was interesting. I'm very glad that I've cut out the like top half dome things already, because otherwise I just wouldn't have enough fabric. So I can't mess up. It's been a couple of days and I have done a whole lot of hand sewing for the foot cover things. So all of the strips have had their initial hand sewing onto this, the back. The back is fully stabilized. Thank goodness I did the stabilization because I needed it. So when I say stabilize, it's just the interfacing. Anyway, this is what it currently looks like. I've overlocked all the edges and zigzagged where the zip is to go. So what I need to do now is I need to close it up and create the foot shape. So that's what I'm going to do next. And I'll check back in once that is done. So I've gone ahead and I have sewn up the little booty things, and yes, they fit. They look as they're meant to. The only downside is that the seam that runs underneath, I knew it was going to be uncomfortable, but it's very uncomfortable because there are so many layers to this. So to help that out, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to hand stitch down the seam, and I may even need to add a little bit of cushioning. All right, so it's a couple of days later and here are the boots. They look pretty much identical to the last time you saw them. However, now the inside is sewn flat and I've gone around and I have hand stitched in between each of the layers just so that they are nice and secure because they were gapping in certain places. So now I've done that, the next step is for me to attach the kind of skirt thing on top of the ankle for this one, which I've already got the interface on. And then from there I'll add in the zipper, and then after the zipper's in, then I can put the lining in and do the gold and all of that. So one step at a time, Curly, don't get ahead of yourself. But yes, lots of hand sewing went into this, into both this and the Vambraces, let's be honest. So the zippers are in and I've got the cuff on the top, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing I need to do is attach the lining to the boots, and I want to get that done today before I go out. I've got like an hour and a half, and then I'm catching up with Estelle Cosplay, which I'm so excited. I haven't seen her since before the pandemic. She was over in Perth, and then when the pandemic hit she had to fly back to Brisbane, and a lot has happened since then, so it'll be lovely to catch up with her and her man friend, which I'm very excited for. But essentially what I need to do is I need to attach the lining, and I had a little bit of a meltdown because in another video, which will be coming out later now, I work on the armor pieces and all the jewelry pieces and stuff like that, and I had the kind of bangle cuff things that go around here, except the issue was that I did all my mock-up, I had it all, I tried it all looked well, all felt good, all felt secure, and then I tried the finish kind of cuff around this while it was on my ankle, and it kept popping off. It's all magnetic, and the reason being is that I did not take into account the padding that all of the strips of fabric would create. So what that means, because I am not redoing this again, is I need to size up my my cuff in my 3D model that I've created, have it reprinted, reprime it, repaint it, regloss it, remagnetize it, and I also will be putting some magnets in the boot itself to help hold it together. But I mean, the upside of this, because you know I'm someone who is all about silver linings, because there's so much padding on this, it means that, it should mean at least, that it won't be rubbing against my ankle, which I am very keen for it not to do, because especially my left ankle, I've got soft tissue damage from years ago where I had an injury. So yeah, that's what's happening there. It's very frustrating because like it was all finished. It was all finished, and now I have to remake the entire thing once this is done. But you know, I thought I accounted for it. Clearly I did not. So the first thing I need to do today is I need to cut out the bulk that is in the seam. So here around the ankle, I need to go around and essentially cut that down, because it's really thick with all the layers of fabric, and that is rubbing against my ankle, which does not feel nice. I also need to iron where the zip goes in the lining, so that I can then have, you know, hand stitch that into place, and I will machine stitch up the top. Once the lining is in, then it's just a matter of adding the gold. So the end is in sight, but I'm gonna stop talking because I want to get cracking. Hi and welcome to my floor. So as you can see, my boot covers now have the lining put in them, so that is all sewn, green on both sides, looking swish. They are not the most comfortable things. There's a lot of layers of fabric to this. I'm so glad I cut away the excess bulk at the like ankle line and around, you know, around the zip, because it has made it easier to do up the zip, and also it's not as full around my ankles, so that's really good because I was really concerned about doing more soft tissue damage. But yeah, so they're quite comfortable around the ankle now. However, where it's not comfortable is right underneath my foot, because of course there's the seam line and it goes right up kind of the center and then off to the side of my feet. And I mean, it's gonna be fine. I mean, I've worn high heels to conventions before, and that is more uncomfortable than this. And I will have my feet hopefully inside some flat shoes if they will fit, because these are quite chunky. Otherwise I'll need to find some slides or something. My toes are really cold. They're very, very cold. But well, you know, we'll just make it work. So the next thing I need to do is I need to put on the gold on the base and then up here. And then I just need to put on the half dome. So it's the same ones as what's on my sleeves. There's one that goes on each of the little cuff here. So yes, the cuffs themselves are like, they're standing up, which is what I want. But like, this one is weirdly like bowing in, and I'm not sure why. I might give it all like a little bit of a press. That might help. I don't think it will, but you know what? Hopefully with the press and with the gold, it will just have that like little bit of support around the outside, and hopefully it will stop bowing in. It's not a big deal. It's fine. Like, I can just like, there we go. It's fine now. I just wish that it would just, you know, stay like this one. Fabrics. Anyway, that is what they're looking like. These are so weird. Yeah, I'm not really a foot person. And like, you know, making these have been definitely an experience, and definitely a challenge. So I'm happy for it, and I think that they look very similar to the picture. I do wish they were slightly more comfortable, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's go do the gold. Just before we start though, I just want to like go, yeah, that is some nice like cross stuff that's happening on there. I'm really happy with how that pattern turned out. So I have gone ahead and I have sewn on the gold to the top of the boot, which is easy, and that was fine, no problem whatsoever. I just need to flip that over and hand sew it down. However, when I tried to get this part through the machine, there was no way that I was going to be able to fit it underneath the foot. Like, it's just a very tight circle, and even if I tried to like move it with all the different layers around, I just was not going to be able to maneuver it around and get a straight stitch on that. And this gold is very unforgiving. Once you put a hole in it, you will see it forever. So I just decided, you know what, I'll take the hard route, as these keep on making me do, and I'm going to have to hand stitch very small stitches around at the 1.5 centimeter seam allowance before I can flip them in. Good evening. I have something to show you. Aha! So here they are. So I have two things left to do on these. So, but first let me just say, all of the hand stitching is now done. They are fully lined. They are looking like this. They fit nicely. I actually haven't tried them on with the gold now, but it's not going to fit any differently to how they were without the gold. I say that, but I feel like every turn that I've had with these like toeless boots, like when I'm like, yeah, that'll be fine, it has not been fine. So I may even try them on, but this is what they're looking like, and I don't foresee that there should be any issues, right? Anyway, so the last thing I need to do is I need to do the kind of toe loop that goes in between like my big toe and the index toe, I don't know what it's called, around to the bottom. And then I just need to add the little gold half dome on the top, which I'm going to do tomorrow. But for tonight, what I've done is I've created the little loop. I've made it very thin because unlike most Australians, I actually really dislike wearing what we call thongs, which Americans and the rest of the world would call, what do you call them? What do you call them? Like Havanas and stuff. Hang on, let me just Google this. What do Americans call thongs? Flip-flops. Yeah, you guys call them flip-flops. Because apparently thongs is something completely different. But yes, so I need to cut that and like do that and then sew it in as if it is a flip-flop. And I actually don't enjoy wearing anything like that. Like even like the sandals that like have like the little toe kind of divider thing. I don't like it. So this will be an interesting experience wearing these because, as I've mentioned, they're already not the most comfortable things on the base of my feet to wear. And then having like essentially toe floss. Not too excited about that, but it's a cool design and we're all about the design here, and at least it's not high heels. So I've got this, I've made it, it's just a very thin piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna prep it right now because I've almost finished. So now I have 2 of them, and tomorrow when I'm a little bit more awake, I am going to figure out where these go on here while they're on my foot, or on my feet, should I say. As you can see, it's late. And then I will sew that down and also have a look at basically the sizing of the metal kind of bangle that goes over the top of it, and have a look and see where, like how far down I'm going to put the gold half dome. But I'm too tired now. I know that if I try to do it tonight, I am going to make a mistake. Alright, so I've tried on the shoes, at least on my left foot, because for some reason I've got a weird pain in my right heel and I just don't want to put it on my right foot today. Hopefully that goes away. Anyway, I've been trying to think very like quite a lot about what shoes I'm going to wear around the convention, because I can't walk barefoot. It's disgusting. I'm not doing it, and it's probably against the rules. And up until now, I have had 2 options. I would either have like my wide like black shoes that are like slip-ons that I'm like, great, no problem. Or I have clear slides that I was like, okay, well I could put that on and that way they're not too distracting from the shoes. Neither of those fit, and none of my other shoes fit, except one pair. My very fluffy slippers. They're the only ones that will allow me to get my foot in and out of. And not, you know, and not cause any kind of issue. So I realized that I'll probably be going around a convention wearing essentially upper slippers. Like, it kind of looks like I've skinned upper, or I've collected the fur of upper, and that's what I'm walking around in, because literally they're the only ones that will fit the kind of thickness and width of these. Now I will say one thing though, because they're slippers, they have a lot of cushion on the bottom, which means that when I'm walking, my feet don't hurt. Like, all of the seams are like supported. So I think this might actually be a blessing in disguise. Anyway, I'm going to bed now and I will finish these tomorrow. Good morning. So welcome to a brand new day. And I'm glad I slept on this because I figured out there was a very simple answer to how I could make these, and that was to sew the straps at the bottom and then put them on, flick them up and then pin them where they need to go to below the gold, because once you poke the hole, the gold with this, you know, it's scarred, so it doesn't self-heal, so it's very, very noticeable. So yeah, now I have got the gold where they're meant to be, between the toes and whatnot, and I just need to take these off, trim them down, flip them around to the right side, and then sew them. So yeah, it's very straightforward, and my brain last night could not handle it. And yes, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll try them on again and have a little bit of a look. In fact, I might even figure out where I'm going to put the gold thing, the gold dome now, and then that way I can just pop it on there. So I think I'm going to go do that now off camera, just so that I have got both hands free, and I will check back in with you probably when this is all done, because this is just hand sewing and sticking on the gold. Well, if you haven't seen my video about how I did the sleeves, go watch that because it's exactly the same. Anyway, I'll catch up with you very shortly, hopefully to show off the full finished project of the Toeless boots and the Vambraces. Also, look at these two. You guys are meant to be my assistants, but instead you're just pruning yourselves. Hey puppies. Oh, now you're paying attention. How about that? Lacey's like, I don't care. Puppies. Yeah, hello. Hi, Taffeta. Hello. Hello, Lacey. Hello. There we are, finally. Some response. All right, come on. Let's go and do the sewing. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Come on, come on, come on, come on. So, thus ends the creation of the Vambraces and the footless boots. Let's cut to the footless boots now so you can see what they look like finished. Overall, I am super happy with how both of these items turned out. I've not created anything like the boots especially ever before, and I am so happy with how the different pieces kind of fit together. I had some fit issues after I had tried to lay out all of the kind of added detail fabric over the top, but I think most of that has been mitigated. So I'm hoping that with the cuff that I now have to redo, with the silver band that goes around the ankle, I'm hoping that it will all work out fine. I've done my very best, and that's pretty much the only thing I can do. It's been a long time since I worked on the Vambraces, and I can definitely say that the Vambraces, I think, were definitely the right choice to do these first and the boots second, because these helped me figure out what I needed to do, and the boots then challenged me. It was like, this was easy, the boots were hard, because this essentially is one circular kind of object that I was covering, whereas the boots, there's a circular object that way, and then there's like a large kind of like, I don't know, sphere, and then there's another circular object. So trying to fit something like that with straight fabric, even though there was a bit of stretch in the fabric, that caused some issues, and I wasn't accounting for that. I tried my best to account for it, but I did not account for it as much as I think I needed to. But I think I have made it work. Overall, I'm very happy with them. The only thing I dislike is that the toeless boots are very thick right at like the kind of where my toes poke out of, and so it's like there's a bit of pressure just on that part of my foot, essentially kind of mimicking as if I'm wearing high heels. You know how you get that pain right on like the ball of your foot? That is exactly where it's like cutting off. So it is very awkward to like have that feeling on carpet. It's fine. I'm on carpet now and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, that doesn't hurt. As soon as I go onto a hard surface like the tiles, I'm just like, oh, ow. So yes, I think slippers are going to be the way to go when I'm wearing these around the convention. So I need to give them a really good wash, but these are the slippers that work for these toeless boots, and I said last night that they look kind of like, you know, I skinned it up. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching and joining me on the last sewing part of this cosplay. This was definitely the most hand sewing I think I've done for the entire cosplay. That's why, although they are like 4 small pieces, they've taken me a really long time to create, and I was giving up hope. I swear I was giving up hope. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give us a rock power in the comments, and also hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much again for watching. I will see you all in the next one. What part will be next? The armor or the wig? See you then. Bye.